You're listening to Inside the Locker Room with Wimp and Barry Sanderson on Tide 100.9 in Tuscaloosa.
Or Town Square Media websites. Fill out the Advertise Here form. Put the power of Town Square Media to work for your business.
Inside the Locker Room with former Crimson Tide basketball coach Wimp Sanderson and his son, former SEC and ACC assistant basketball coach Barry Sanderson. It's time to take you inside the locker room on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
And good morning and welcome into a Tuesday edition of Inside the Locker Room. Off to a bad start. Got in, my tires just about flat. I got in here and Chase spilled my hot coffee like right into my lap this morning. So hopefully today will get better, but not a great start to this Tuesday edition of Inside the Locker Room. 205-342-9904 is the phone number if you'd like to get in on the show with us this morning. The X accounts at Locker Room 109, at Barry Sanderson, at Wimp Sanderson 1. And the email address for the show is wimpandbarry@yahoo.com. Download that app, the Tide 100.9 app, to your smartphone, and you can take us with you anywhere you go. Before we get started, we want to thank Yellowwood Pressure Treated Pine from Great Southern. If it doesn't have the yellow tag on it, then you certainly don't want it. Go to yellowwood.com. Find the dealer that is closest to you. All right, I'm going to let you guys know, Disney and DirecTV, you got 4 days to get that figured out. If you don't have that figured out within 4 days, I'm gone. I'm going to YouTube TV. So they got 4 days, Dad, to get this thing figured out because I'm not going to miss all the games over the weekend. So do what you want to with that DirecTV if you're listening. Good morning, Dad. How was your weekend?
I feel the same way. No doubt about that. We had 16 teams in our league. We had 11 wins by big scores. I'm not going to get into those. We had 2 close wins, certainly South Carolina, and a great win by Vanderbilt. And then we had 3 losses to make up our 16 teams in the SEC. Before I get to other things, I certainly want to talk a little bit about what happened in the Alabama game. The pregame ceremonies for the team with Susanna, the young lady who has cancer, who gathered around the team, something that Coach had done at Washington with people that struggled. Got them off to a very happy start, being able to visit with her and see her throw the football and so forth. And then I thought one of the ladies that had been there and had worked very hard as a custodian that Coach had found out about, Tina Thomas. They gave a rare breed award. So they brought her in. She had no idea what was going on. So my point is that everything that they did was positive. The night before, this very short speech, he told them to be in by 10 o'clock. If they missed a tackle, nothing was said to them, actually, publicly that we could see. So everything was very, very positive, great game. When the game was over with, they gave the game ball to Coach for his first win. And certainly the team feels very, very good about themselves. Now, you need to understand this. Coach, when the game starts, Coach doesn't do any coaching much. A little, but not much. The defense is strictly Warmax. He is not involved with that whatsoever. He might call him and ask him why it happened, but he is not coaching the team. When it comes to offense, pretty much the 2 assistant coaches got together, from what I understand. We're doing it, and they did the running of the show. He found out what they were going to run, and he let them run it. So pretty much a very positive attitude. Coach was there to be the head coach, and naturally did everything that he could to put a positive attitude on it. The players were all happy about playing for him. Everything has been positive thus far, and so that's the way Alabama football is as of this day. Whether things change when teams get tougher. I have no idea with South Florida coming in for a 6 o'clock game on Saturday. But prior to this, the little girl, and the lady who had been working there for so many years as a custodian. Coach said that when he came in and was introduced to people around there, she got the biggest applause by anybody for what she had done, working very hard as a custodian. So she got an award, and that was great. Very quickly, I'm not going to go through all the scores, Barry, and I can talk about them. Some in golf. Scotty won it all. I think it's $96 million career. Colin Alcala, whatever his name is, won $12,500,000. Russell Henley has a Birmingham connection with over $4 million. Justin got $905,000. Tom Hoagie got $550,000. So that's what happened there. Most of it, as Barry mentioned. I did not get to see the Florida State game because I'm on DirecTV, and I'll be 88 out the gate as well. But Florida State lost a tough one, and they're 0-2. Of course, they're calling for his head down there. So we'll see what happens there. Hopefully, they don't fire somebody that goes 0-2. He's admitted that things didn't go good. Quarterback. An open guy in the end zone, but did see one excerpt of that, overthrew him. So those are things that happen. We welcome your calls. Kevin will be on. Skarbinski will be on at the bottom of the hour. And then we shoved Doug Bell over from the Monday over to today. He'll be on at 8:15.
Yeah, all right, we'll get to, I don't want to leave him hold. He was holding before the show even started. So we'll get to the Yellowwood Hotline. Pressure treated pine from Great Southern. Good morning, Joe.
Morning.
Hey, Joe.
Well, who did you take on your blue plate?
I lost. I took Texas A&M.
Well,
I felt like
I'm so afraid. I owe you an apology, Wimp. I'm sorry. I think I kind of influenced you on that.
No.
Said I had you totally confused the other day.
No, I did not. I wasn't totally confused at all. I had thought about what happened to me. What happened to me was pretty stupid. The two running backs at Georgia I thought were hurt. And I thought Clemson's defense was good. I thought they would cover a 13.5, maybe. I felt like that Texas A&M playing at home for the first time would be so darn fired up and ready to go with a great crowd there that they would win the game. And naturally, I was wrong.
Yeah, if you watch Game Day, like Nick Saban, he picked A&M. He talked about the crowd, and so when he picks these games, he doesn't pick them very good either. He picked Florida State. He picked obviously Texas A&M. Talked about the crowd. So he's the smartest coach in college football, and he can't pick them either. He's not even picking against the lines.
I think it was very, very hard to pick games. I think there are a lot of people who picked Florida. I didn't. I thought, but didn't have enough, what's to do it. I thought Miami would win that game because I had talked to some people that had some people on their staff down there, and I thought that would happen. But I think there was a lot of, if you want to call them upsets, but people didn't know how to, and you don't know how to bet as well early in the year. I made a stupid error in that I had forgotten that New Mexico had brought their head coach and quarterback to Vanderbilt, and I thought that Vanderbilt would get beat because they didn't have any transfers. And I certainly miscalculated that, and I was wrong. I had did very well.
He and Mike Norvell are off to bad starts, Joe.
Yeah. Well, I thought the Texas A&M quarterback, I really thought Jimbo's offense was what was holding that kid back. But gosh, was I wrong. No. That kid cannot throw the ball downfield at all. No, I was shocked. Did y'all see him throwing up coming off the field?
Yeah.
His Gatorade?
Yeah.
But anyway, I smoked the one that mattered the most, and that was Barry's, man. I got that one, USC. Did y'all notice how little USC substituted? That running back from Mississippi State played the whole.
Joe, if you're ever a coach of a football team, and you're in the beginning of the season, you had a tough year. Like on your first drive, when you get down there, and I know it's easy to say, take the points. Don't go for it. You just swing all the momentum. Just take the 3 points. They called timeout. You knew they weren't going to make it when they went for it on fourth down. Just kick the field goal, get the 3 points. But when you don't kick the field goal, you give them back all the momentum when you just had a great drive, driving the ball down. Nussmeier looked great on that drive. And to go for it, I don't know. I thought that was a bad
Barry, just remember, you
move.
picked him 3 straight years to win 10
I think
games.
they're good. I think LSU's good. LSU could have easily won that game.
Barry, he got rid of the thuds, and he went out and recruited a bunch more. That's all he's done. Look at his sideline. You saw the guy that scored the touchdown and got the flag.
I don't think he handles them very well. They had some bad calls after touchdowns. Let me show you how good I am.
Yeah,
type guys.
it cost them.
Yeah, I think he did.
Yeah.
And then the target trying to make the guy fumble. I mean, he used his head first.
Yeah.
It was so stupid. Just but they showed that guy that scored the first touchdown on the sideline. He saw he was on camera. He stood up and did it at one of his teammates.
Well, he was showing them what he did. Coming off
but
the
still,
field. But at least if you're an LSU fan, you're got hope. If you're a South Carolina fan, you ain't got no hope after watching that team play. With that quarterback with his glasses on, they looked horrible over the weekend.
I know I'm running out of time. I'm going to leave y'all with this. And remember, I was the first guy to tell y'all this. Dabo Swinney is headed down the road that Dennis Franchione went down. And you know what I'm talking about after you went to A&M. He had to check himself in.
I don't think Dennis Franchione won any national championships.
Yeah, but William, have you listened to him? Saturday morning, he was on ESPN, and he said, the most important thing today is not that scoreboard. Why do you play the game, Will?
Well,
you play it to win.
I don't know what you say
you
about
play it
to
win.
They interviewed him prior to the game. And
he won't take any questions. He's just like Harrison and her vice president Sunday when they asked him in the ice cream parlor if he would comment on the assassinations. Goodbye, everybody, and walked out the door.
Yeah. All right, Joe. I don't know else you look. They just they're not. Their talent level is pretty good. I think they got a chance, but they got.
Their talent level's always good, Barry.
Yeah,
it's always good. The guy can't coach. He never did it at the Notre Dame. It was the worst national championship game in history when we played there.
Just take the points on your first drive. Don't try to kick. Don't go for it, Joe.
Well, USC paid them back, missed a chip shot, so what's it matter?
Momentum. Momentum is big. Thank you, Joe.
Well, just keep making excuses for him.
Thank you, buddy. Right. Thank you. I thought Nussmeier played well, to be honest with you. So, and that's the thing, like these, I did get to see a little bit of the highlights of the game from last night. And when you start relying on just the portal to go get a quarterback and you don't develop guys within your system, DJ, they saw him at Clemson. He wasn't good enough. And they tried to get Cam Ward and Miami outbid him. A guy like Ty Simpson would be great at Florida State.
Would he?
I mean, that's a guy you got to go get. You got to figure out how to go get him, or you got to develop within. Like Clemson's quarterback is not very good. And if you're Western Kentucky, I mean, why are you taking T.J. Finley? He just threw the ball right to. I mean, the kid from Michigan made some good plays. He's a good player, but let's don't go nuts. The guy threw the ball right to him. I mean, he threw it right to him. I mean, I think Matt could have picked that ball off. Now the kid's good. But you go get T.J. Finley in the transfer portal to come in there and start for you. And so you're not developing guys anymore. We're just going and picking guys that have played up elsewhere.
They must have talked to his mother.
Yeah, that's pitiful. That is pitiful. Pitiful. If you think you're going to win with him. All right, we'll take the break here. We'll open up the phone lines 205-342-9904. 2-minute truck there at 1330 Martin Road East. That's where you go pick up your boxes, your packing supplies, whatever you need to make this a smooth move. It's local, out of town, out of state, no problems. Let the professionals handle it. They'll take great care of you and your stuff. Give them a call today. That's 205-247-5050. men in a truck, movers who care.
Here's what's trending on the Tuscaloosa thread.
Good Tuesday morning, Cottondale Republican State Senator Gerald Allen was able to get a law passed that no longer requires pistol permits in Alabama. But now Mobile Sheriff Paul Birch wants them restored for persons under 21. He says it would allow law enforcement to seize guns in the increasingly gun-violent youth population. Click TuscaloosaThread.com for more local news, sports, and weather coverage all throughout the day. It's absolutely free. Don Hartley, Town Square Media, Tuscaloosa.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
Tuscaloosa traffic now from the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center. Well, we're slowing down a bit on Route 11 for you this Tuesday morning, and that's in both directions between Lower Coling and Middle Coling Road. Otherwise, the usual happenings as far as construction work, 2059 westbound between McFarland and Joe Malisham. You do have bridge work that will cost you some slow goes from time to time right now.
Chiropractic, the only third-generation chiropractor with over 26 years experience in Tuscaloosa. Call Tidwell Chiropractic at 752-2503.
Road tripping, business travel, or bringing your car in for repairs. All great reasons to rent a Toyota at Tuscaloosa Toyota. You can rent the latest Toyota models for a day, a week, or a weekend. Every Toyota rental car comes with 24 hours roadside assistance.
Or Town Square Media Tuscaloosa radio websites. Fill out the Advertise Here form. Put the power of Town Square Media to work for your business.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
The sky partially sunny today. The chance of a few scattered showers and thunderstorms this afternoon and tonight. The high today 89, tonight's low 69. Tomorrow a mix of sun and clouds. The chance of a shower or storm in a few spots. The high 85. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3320 Weather Center on Tide 100.9.
Never miss a moment of the action. Download the free Tide 100.9 app today.
Welcome back to Inside the Locker Room. Pressure treated pine from Great Southern. Want to build the 5-star backyard, then you want to use Yellowwood. I thought Alabama looked good. Jahai Campbell, they got a running back. I mean, a defensive guy that can run there, man. He can cover all sides of the field. So I thought great game for Coach DeBoer and his staff. The first game, we'll see how they go this week. 31-point favor against South Florida. Coach Saban did game day, Dad. He was back in Tuscaloosa at 1:30. They saw him in the stadium. So I guess as soon as that's over, they just put him on a van, take him straight to the airport. He gets on the private plane, and boom, he's back. So pretty nice gig there for Coach. All right, get to the Yellowwood hotline and get Philip in. Good morning, Philip.
Good morning. Good morning, guys. It was a lot of fun in Tuscaloosa Saturday. I thought the energy was great. I thought the team had very good chemistry, got a lot of great skill players, but that was Western Kentucky. There's a lot of tough games coming up. South Florida is going to be a lot better than Western Kentucky. I still think Alabama should win that game, going away. I will say that Miami looked good to me. Their quarterback looked very comfortable. He was almost just totally non-flustered and non-affected.
He was. I've never seen a guy like that. He'll run, and then before he even gets out of bounds, he just kind of stops and walks out of bounds. Like he never gets in a rush. You think he's about to get drilled, and he'll get right there and just kind of stop and walk out of bounds.
He looked very comfortable athletically. He can make some plays. Notre Dame surprised me. I thought Texas A&M would win that game. LSU's good, but they do dumb stuff.
Yeah.
FSU, they're out of the playoffs. Clemson has got one more loss that they can afford before they're out, and they're probably going to get one more loss. Boston College, if they play their cards right, they could be 11-1 at the end of the year.
I hadn't looked at their schedule, but they
well, I've got it pulled up. I just so happen to have it pulled up, Bear.
Yeah.
They play Duquesne next. Their toughest game left on their schedule is going to be September the 14th at Missouri. Then they play Michigan State. They play Western Kentucky. They go to Virginia. They host They go to Virginia Tech. They host Louisville. They host Syracuse. They go to SMU. They host North Carolina, and they host Pittsburgh. The teams left on their schedule. Alabama would be favored by 10 to 12 points over all those teams.
Yeah. Eli Holstein for Pittsburgh, the former Alabama quarterback, had a big day up at Pittsburgh. Did you see his stats? He played well.
I did not.
Yeah.
I did not.
Really, threw for over 300 yards. Did really, really, really good. So,
well, if they can get some excitement in Chestnut Hill, if they can get some excitement up there, and let's just say they upset Missouri, which they might can, they have got a heck of a deal going on right now. They could find themselves looking right in the playoffs.
Well, the three teams that we heard about, Dad and Philip, in the ACC that were supposed to be the best, Clemson, Virginia Tech, and Florida State, they don't look so good right now, do they?
Not right now. Isn't it funny how all the talk about Clemson and FSU going to a different league and being mad at the ACC, they're not looking good at all.
No. Mike Norvell said he was sick. He must not have a backup quarterback. If he kept watching that and not putting the backup in, he needed to be sick.
Barry, you were talking about going for it a minute ago, and I thought you were talking about the Florida State game last night.
No, I was talking about LSU. I was talking about LSU on that first drive.
Florida State going for it on 4th and 4, and you Delay throwing that interception that almost got returned for a touchdown that was stupid.
Yeah, no doubt.
But I think Alabama looks good. Like I say though, they've got a tough schedule coming up, and I don't know what we can tell about Georgia really. I mean, Clemson couldn't make a play either. Yeah.
Thank you, Philip.
Thank y'all.
All right, back to the Yellowwood Hotline. Get Cowboy in. Good morning, Cowboy.
Morning. How you doing, Barry and Coach?
Good.
Hey, Coach, I got a question for you. Me and a friend of mine were talking about it over the weekend.
Okay.
I said it would be this tournament, but I'm going to ask you because you're more of a golf aficionado than me. Is it more prestigious to win the Players' Championship or win the FedEx Cup?
Oh, I think winning the FedEx Cup, you start with the number that you start and reduce it all the way down the way you reduce it each time, and to think of all those players who have played. Everybody's there got to be some that are going to play well, and there were. X did play real well, but I think winning the whole thing the way he did has got to be a bigger plus than anything you can do because you start with so many players.
Yeah, boy, that's Scotty Scheffler, man. He's driving the ball, they say, better than Tiger did in 20-0-0.
Well, I think the big thing is his second shots. He's always generally in the fairway, but his second shots are manageable for some made putts, and his putter has gotten better. He's improved that, and I think the ones that he were missing earlier in his career, he's been making, and he's the kind of guy that when he goes home to check on the baby, as soon as he checks on the baby, he's out to doing something that he has not done well by practice because that's his life. So he's a heck of a player, and I think he's got a great mental attitude. And the people that played, even X played with him, he said, even though he was beating me, he's the kind of guy that you enjoy playing against.
Yeah. A friend of mine thought it's better to win the Players' Championship. I said, nah, the FedEx Cup, but you and him know more about golf than I do. So
you could argue about, anytime you want to make a prediction about something, you can find 50,000 people that think the other way. So all I did was answer your question the way I felt.
Yeah. I kind of felt like you, the FedEx Cup, but he had a heck of a tournament. Barry, what'd you think of the performance by LSU Sunday night? I knew the coach was going to be upset. I kind of felt for him because, I know everybody wants to poke shots at him, but I think the guy's a good coach and a good guy. It's just those guys down there just, they can't get him to listen, you know. But it's going to end up probably costing him because he's the one ultimately in charge. That, my goodness, they make some dumb mistakes.
Yeah, that's mistakes and, you know, score a touchdown, just throw the ball to the official and go to the sideline. But he act like he shot somebody or something, so he ends up getting a penalty on the kickoff. So they take the kickoff and just about run the thing back. So you lose all the momentum you got. I guess that's coaching. I'm surely he's not coaching them to act that way. So they got to clean. If they get that cleaned up, you know, I don't know who they got this weekend. I have to look.
Well,
here.
Coach, Barry, I got them at best 9-3. I got them losing 2 of the 3 to Ole Miss, Alabama, and Texas A&M. That's kind of where their season comes down to if you look at their schedule.
Texas A&M. Hopefully Texas A&M's got another quarterback. I just don't know. You got to have a quarterback, man, in this league to win. And I'm not crazy about it.
Can't live without it.
Yeah.
Got to have it.
All right, Cowboy, we got to get to Kevin. Appreciate you, my man.
All right, be good, guys.
Thank you.
Coach.
All right, we'll get to this break, and then we'll get to Kevin Skarbinsky. Listen to Tide 100.9, 1230 AM WTBC. It's the home of Alabama sports.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
Tuscaloosa traffic now from the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center. Well, we're slowing down a bit on Route 11 for you this Tuesday morning, and that's in both directions between Lower Coling and Middle Coling Road. Otherwise, the usual happenings as far as construction work, 2059 westbound between McFarland and Joe Malisham. You do have bridge work that will cost you some slow goes from time to time right now.
These changes within just a couple of days.
Text support to 511-511.
These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Tax fees may apply.
2-time state champion and 2-time NIT champion Barry Sanderson breaks down the latest in sports on Inside the Locker Room on Tide 100.9.
Welcome back to Inside the Locker Room. Pressure treated pine from Great Southern. You want to build the fence, the deck, the pergola. You want to use Yellowwood. Go to yellowwood.com. Put your zip code in. You can find the dealer that is closest to you. All right, get to the Yellowwood hotline. He writes for the Birmingham Lead. Joins us every Tuesday. Kevin Skarbinsky. Good morning, Kevin. How are you?
Morning. I'm good, fellas. Good morning.
Kevin, my take from the weekend is that the price for good quarterback play just went way up. Can you imagine if like Ty Simpson, could right now, people could bid for his services, what he would be worth, or Arch Manning on the open market right now when you watch Florida State, you watch TJ Finley, not that West Kentucky could pay for that, but you got to have quarterback play. It's almost like the NFL, and I think the price for a great quarterback, when you see what the kid from Miami did, has gone way up after week 1, in my opinion.
Yeah, good observation. And you have to wonder, what was Mike Norvell thinking?
Oh.
I mean, bringing in DJU after he struggled at Clemson. He was okay at Oregon State last year. He wasn't great. And what we saw the first 2 weeks, and last night in particular, he just looked bad. He just did not look like a Power 4 quarterback. And Mike Norvell is an offensive guy. How did you think this was the guy that was going to be able to step in for Jordan Travis and keep that Florida State offense rolling? It's mind-boggling. Cade Klubnik. Now, you can put an asterisk on that because it was the Georgia defense, and they do that kind of thing to a lot of people. They did it to Bo Nix in his first game at Oregon, and he turned out to be pretty good. But did we see anything last year from Cade Klubnik that suggested that he's going to be, that kind of Clemson quarterback like Deshaun Watson or Trevor Lawrence when Clemson was at its best? I don't think so. So you're right. Now we see why quarterbacks are so valuable. And that quarterback from Miami, Cam Ward. Wow. First of all, the guy looked like he was sleepwalking. He looked like he had no pulse. I don't think I've ever seen a cooler customer at quarterback then he was unbothered, unhurried, did what he wanted when he wanted. You know, it was obviously a very bad look for Florida, but that dude, and we could see why. I think Auburn made at least a little run at him in the off season. And that guy looks like he could be one of those guys that turns Miami into the kind of team that Florida State was last year. That maybe runs the table. I've never seen a guy
play like that. Like, he would run, and like right before he get out of bounds, he would just kind of stop and just kind of walk out of bounds. Like, he wasn't going to get out of breath. And
he was conserving his energy, I guess.
Yes, it was unbelievable. Anyway, go ahead, Dad.
Well, it was evaluation, number one, and money, number two, because they've got a guy down there that pays their basketball players pretty big money to get them in where they've gotten in basketball until this past year. They didn't play very well, but I think basically they sort of bought him out from under. I didn't get to see the game, so for me, I know the wideouts were very good. Can you evaluate Auburn's quarterback play?
Yeah, you know, so many of these games you have to put an asterisk by because they were against completely overmatched opponents. You know, that's why I thought it was comical for the SEC network to be crowing about, you know, 4 60-point-plus victories on one day. That's never been done in the history of
question because
in the AP poll.
So bad.
Yeah, I mean, look, he did good. He did good things. I mean, he certainly has better weapons than he had last year. You know, all of those freshmen and then the transfer from Penn State, they all did good things. They made big catches. They had big plays down the field. All the things that Auburn did not do very well last year on offense. But again, you just have to add the asterisk that it was Alabama A&M. We'll get a better perspective this week when they play Cal. And you guys remember last year they went out to Berkeley and just were lucky to get out of there with a win. It was a very ugly offensive performance. Auburn had to score late to win it. So they'll get a little better test on defense this week. And that's why these first games, look, there's nothing wrong with playing an FCS school, a lower level FBS school that you know that you're going to beat no matter what. There's nothing wrong with that, but let's keep it in perspective too, though. You know, all these records that were set, it's kind of comical. And I'll tell you what, if Ole Miss better be really good in the SEC, because its non-conference schedule is an absolute joke. They played Furman last week. I forget who they played. And Furman's not a bad FCS team out of the SoCon, but come on. And then I forget who they're playing this week. It's another tackling dummy.
Middle Tennessee.
Yeah. I mean, come on. Ole Miss basically bought itself 4 wins in the non-conference. And so, you know, all those big numbers and, you know, records, that looks good on paper. But that's not going to do you much good when you start playing real teams like Georgia. So we'll see what Ole Miss is made of. It'll be a while before we see what Ole Miss is really made of, for example.
Is Clemson? I thought Clemson, I know this sounds stupid. The first half, I thought they played pretty well, to be honest with you. But, of course, Georgia's talent just took over. And I think you said it, they made Bo Nix look bad early. When you give Kirby Smart and those guys that long to get ready for a game, is there going to be a ton of overreaction now about Dabo based on this one game? Do we need to wait and see how he does the rest of the season? I don't think his quarterback's very good, like you said there, but now he's just getting destroyed. Are you there as well with him as being so stubborn about the portal, or are you going to kind of wait and let this thing play out a little bit this season?
No, if you judged coaches on how they did against Georgia, there's only one who would get a passing grade over the last three years or so, and that guy's not coaching anymore.
Yeah.
Of course, that was Nick Saban. And I hadn't really thought about it in these terms, but 40 straight regular season victories.
That's amazing.
In today's college football, And I know they were in the SEC East, and the SEC East has not been as good as the SEC West. Of course, there are no divisions going forward starting this year, but that is astounding. And the fact that it's not only the longest streak in SEC history, I think Alabama under Nick Saban had, I think their longest was 32. I added it up over the weekend. I can't remember the exact number now. But 40, and then it's the second longest. Now this is a stat worth crowing about. The second longest streak in the AP poll era, which started in 1936, behind Oklahoma in the 1950s. That's pretty amazing of what Georgia had, and it tells you what Georgia has done. And if not for Alabama, they'd have another one or maybe two national championships. So it's very impressive, and that's why I'm not. Look, there are just people out there that don't like Dabo Swinney. Let's be honest. They don't like his personality. They don't like the fact that he's very open about his faith. They think he's corny, and they think he's phony. Dabo is who, whether you like Dabo or not, Dabo, he's not phony. He is who he is. That's who, what you see from Dabo is what you get. He is exactly who he is in public and in private. And so there are just people that don't like him. And if you're writing him off based on that game, I think you don't really know football.
Yeah.
Do we get any indication as to how good the SEC is with Texas at Michigan and Arkansas at Oklahoma State? Not a whole lot of great games. I know we have the one game where South Carolina is at Kentucky, probably a Kentucky win. But do we, non-conference wise, Texas at Michigan and Arkansas at Oklahoma State, does that give us any indication that a little bit that we got a team that's supposedly bad in Arkansas and a team that's supposedly good in Texas? Does that give us any indication at all, or is Michigan and Oklahoma State not good enough to give us that?
No, it is an indication. It will be an indication, and those games become even more important after the SEC went 2-3 against teams its own size over the first weekend. You know, forget all these 60-point wins, 76-0, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Look at what they did against comparable opponents.
Yeah.
LSU laid an egg in the opener again. Georgia looked very good, and kudos to Vandy. I'll tell you what, that quarterback, that you talk about quarterback transfers making an impact, that dude from New Mexico State, Diego Pavia, who embarrassed Auburn on its home field last year, that guy is a baller. That's the kind of guy that just you want on your team. He's a winner. He has a toughness about him. But then you look at Texas A&M. They laid an egg against Notre Dame. Their offense was blah. And Notre Dame does have a very, very good defense, especially in the secondary. But, the big boy matchups, the SEC didn't look very good. So the more you get of those, the better your teams better perform, because, look, that's going to be something. And now almost everything, and Nick Saban predicted this years ago, everything that happens from week one on has something to do with the playoff. And there's conversation about what it means for the playoff. And so when your conference, especially the SEC, plays only 8 conference games. So, how you do in the non-conference can make a difference. It can make a difference whether you get in the playoff or not. It can make a difference on your seeding in the playoff if you get in. So these games become important, and like I said, they become more important going forward for the SEC. Alabama, Wisconsin next week, for example. They become more important because the SEC did not distinguish itself in this first weekend in those kind of games.
Talk about Nick Saban a minute. There's been a lot, they're showing the clip of Pat McAfee dancing and Nick standing there kind of looking out of the corner of his eye like, what is this guy doing? But at the end of the show, he said, I didn't know all this went on. I've never had this much fun. And then people tell me that they saw him at the stadium and say, oh, yeah, I was back in Tuscaloosa about 1:30. So he does this little game day deal, drives to the airport, gets on the private plane. I didn't think he'd go to Alabama games, to be quite honest with you. But he did, and he seems to have the right balance with everything there. He's around a little bit, but doesn't seem to be meddling. My wife's at the game, said they didn't show him on the video on the Jumbotron, so everybody go crazy. I know this weekend he'll probably go do the game day at Michigan and then fly back and have the field dedicated towards him. He's kind of handled all this stuff in a great way. Just your thoughts. I think he's enjoying this game day stuff, don't you, Kevin?
Well, although I have to say he looked terribly uncomfortable when Pat McAfee hugged him after taking his shirt off. And I can only imagine what's going through Nick's mind at times, sitting next to that rodeo clown that McAfee is. And it's such a contrast. I mean, Nick's given this incredible breakdown. I forget which game he was breaking down somebody's defense, and you almost had to have a coaching PhD to understand what he was saying. And then there's McAfee doing his shtick. So, but he does seem, I will say this. I think so many of us were wrong. Remember, I mean, so many people thought for so long, and I'll include myself in this, that he was going to be miserable when for whatever reason, he stopped coaching. That he was going to miss it terribly, that he was so much about ball. I can remember Will Muschamp telling me before Texas played Alabama in that 2009 season's BCS championship, that in the off season, they'd go to the lake and some guys would be out playing golf. And of course, Nick does play golf, but Will doesn't. But they would just sit around and talk. The two of them would sit around while other people were out on jet skis and stuff. And Nick does some of that too and did, but they'd be talking ball. And this is in June and July. And so whenever they could get away for a little bit of vacation. So I think we were so wrong about his ability just to enjoy life.
Yeah.
Without being a college football coach. And maybe not having that pressure. Can you imagine? He had, of course, all the resources and all the players, but can you imagine the pressure to be that good every game, every week, every year for 16 years, 17 years? Well, they started out slowly the first year, but got it rolling the second year. But can you imagine? And it's no wonder if you really think about it, it's no wonder he was grouchy and cranky and not just because it was his personality perhaps, but having to be perfect, even in winning, not being perfect, and then being a perfectionist and having it drive you crazy when you win, but you didn't win the way you would have liked or the way you thought you should have. So maybe losing that burden, that having that hanging over him every second of every day, has really brought out his inner child, and just he does seem to be having fun. He's having the most fun of any former coach I can remember, especially in the immediate aftermath of coming off the field. He does not. Maybe he does miss it, but he sure doesn't seem to be missing it. He seems to be loving life right now, and he's having a great time. Yeah, it's nice to see.
Yeah, his commercials are good. I think they're kind of.
Oh, my goodness. The Verbo commercial.
His personality, and they're kind of making fun of it a little bit in a fun way.
Yeah.
And so he just, I think he's busy enough, but not a pressure busy to where he stays busy. But I don't know. It's interesting to kind of watch it go. Jenny was like, "Will he be at the game?" I'm like, no, he's not going to be at the game. Next thing you know, he's up in the box, hanging out at the game. So.
And he seemed to be having fun. I know he got up at one point. Of course, television, of course, is going to show him. I'm glad to hear they didn't do it on the Jumbotron to like take away from the game in the stadium or put the focus on him in the stadium. He probably would not have wanted that at all. But on television, they show he gets up and he walks back and he's talking to, it looked like a couple of former players. I thought I spotted Kool-Aid might have been one of them. I'm not sure, but he just seemed to be having a great time. And that commercial, when have you ever known Nick Saban to like laugh at himself or laugh at his perceived self? I can remember talking to him about that back in June of 2007, our first extended one-on-one interview after he got the job. And he talked about the difference between the way you perceive yourself and others perceive you. And he said that Terry said that the gap for him was like the Grand Canyon between how he saw himself and how others saw him. And poking fun at himself in that commercial with the, kids aren't allowed in the house and, There's a great barbecue out back. Don't use that.
Yeah, don't touch it. Yeah.
Don't touch that. I mean, that's everybody's perception of Nick Saban, right? So for him to laugh at himself and poke fun at his own image is kind of cool to see.
Yeah, that.
Well, I think the biggest thing for him, from what I gathered talking to a little bit around him, is that his main objective was to stay busy.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was the key. That was the key couple words for him. Not slow down. Not get up at 8:00 in the morning and not know what he's going to do with himself. And I think when you're able to do that with his personality and be able to say the right things at the right time, and be involved with so many things because you've been so famous or continue to be so, is really a plus for him. But I think staying busy is really what, and I've visited with a couple of guys who know that's the key word for him.
Yeah, I agree.
That's a great point, Wimp, because he's so. First of all, just being around him, he has that nervous energy. And again, I'll go back to the very first time I spent any time around him, back in June of 2007. And even, it was as relaxed a time as you would have as a college football coach. And he could not sit, even when he was sitting down, he couldn't sit still. His foot was going and tapping, and he's crossing and uncrossing his legs, crossing and folding and unfolding his arms. And he almost made you nervous because he had so much nervous energy. Like he was thinking of a million other things he could be doing. He was very generous with his time. We talked for almost an hour, but he was just this kinetic energy about him. And we all know people like that. And he's been so structured and scheduled for so long. I mean, he knew what he was going to eat for lunch every day. He scheduled interviews. We did an interview once in his office at lunch because he wanted to kill two birds with one stone. He wanted to be able to eat his lunch while we were talking. So he didn't want to take other time away to do an interview. But so he has stayed incredibly busy. I mean, you look at just filming these commercials, that's not something that happens overnight. It takes a while to do those things. And he's got so many different commercials running. He's traveling here, he's traveling there. So and you say, can he keep up that pace? Well, he's kept up a pretty good pace for a long time. And that's the thing. I mean, I know, look, my dad is 89 years old and he still cuts his own grass because it keeps him going. He's used to being busy. And so he stays busy, and that's what keeps him going. And in a similar vein, as you said, Wimp, I think that's a big part of Nick enjoying what he's doing because he is staying busy.
All right, Kevin, let's tell everybody where they can find you.
Yeah, follow me on Twitter/X at Kevin Skarbinski. Keep up with the different things that I am doing. Writing twice a week for the Birmingham Lead. You can subscribe to that publication, BirminghamLead.com. And then also starting Saturday, CBS College Football Saturday with Scott Griffin and me debuts at 6:30 p.m. So it'll be after the Auburn game. The Alabama game will just have gotten started. So we'll talk about what's happened in college football that day, what's happening that evening, what it all means, try to put it in perspective, and have some fun with it. And you can watch it also, if you're watching your game, you can DVR it, or you can watch 2 hours after the show concludes. It will be on the CBS 42 website. So I hope people will check that out.
Thank you. It's not on ESPN.
Yeah, it was on ESPN. We're DirecTV guys. I told they got until Friday at 5, or I'm going YouTube TV.
I made that move. I made that move several years ago, and I couldn't be happier.
The only reason I don't want to do it is we love to watch the Braves, and you don't get Bally on YouTube, do you? YouTube TV.
I don't watch the Braves, so I don't know. So
is YouTube been good for you, Kevin?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
It's been fantastic. I mean, my sons had, and it's good. You can do a family thing where you have different accounts, and it has there. Look, I don't watch much television, primarily sports, and it's great for that, and it's been reliable. It's been consistent. I am a big fan of YouTube TV.
Thank you.
And I was a DirecTV guy for a long time. I would highly recommend making that switch.
Well, it's going to be they got a few days. I'm going to keep them till the Braves, but if they can't get it fixed by Friday, then I'm gone. Thank you, Kevin.
I hear you.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thanks, guys. See you.
All right, we'll take the break here. Let's Tide 100.9, 1230 AM. WTBC is the home of Alabama sports.
Coming up on The Game with Ryan Fowler.
Hey, Roll Tide, this is Ryan Fowler from The Game. We'll be back on Tuesday. We're not going to be laboring on Labor Day. We're going to recap Alabama and Western Kentucky. We'll take your reaction with a great guest lineup, all starting at 2 p.m. Tuesday afternoon, right here on The Game on Tide 100.9, 1230 WTBC, your home of Alabama Crimson Tide Sports.
The longest running sports program in Tuscaloosa. The Game with Ryan Fowler. Weekdays from 2 to 6 p.m. on Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Tide 100.9 Traffic.
Tuscaloosa traffic now from the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center. Well, hello and happy Tuesday to you after the long weekend. Now, if you're traveling on the area freeways right now, so far we're not doing too bad. Starting to get a little volume on McFarland at Lurleen Wallace. That intersection always stays pretty much on the busier side. Otherwise, traffic on 2015.
Now through December 28th, Castrol Edge and Edge High Mileage Motor Oil are on rollback at Walmart.
Claim based on sequence dyne test under high-load conditions versus API SP test limits.
Road tripping, business travel, or bringing your car in for repairs. All great reasons to rent a Toyota at Tuscaloosa Toyota. You can rent the latest Toyota models for a day, a week, or a weekend. Every Toyota rental-car comes with 24 hours roadside assistance.
The Tide Tailgate Show on 95.3 The Bear and Tide 100.9 WTBC 1230. Roll Tide.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
The sky partially sunny today. The chance of a few scattered showers and thunderstorms this afternoon and tonight. The high today 89. Tonight's low 69. Tomorrow a mix of sun and clouds. The chance of a shower or storm in a few spots. The high 85. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9.
WTBC Tuscaloosa and W265CG Tuscaloosa, a Town Square media station. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
From the Fox Sports Studios in Los Angeles, here's Eddie Garcia.
News from the NFL, where ESPN's Adam Schefter is reporting that 11-time Pro Bowl offensive tackle Trent Williams and the San Francisco 49ers are reportedly close to a new contract, which would end his holdout. Top 25 college football, Boston College wins at number 10 Florida State 28-13. Golden Eagles quarterback Thomas Castellanos had 3 touchdowns, 2 passing, 1 rushing in the win. Seminoles are now 0-2 to start the season. Baseball games of note, Yankees beat the Rangers 8-4. New York still a half game up on Baltimore for first in the AL East as the Orioles rolled over the White Sox 13-3. Guardians beat the Royals 4-2. Cleveland has a 3.5 game lead on Minnesota, now 4.5 up on Kansas City for the top spot in the AL Central. Twins kept pace with a 5-4 win over the Rays. Dodgers defeat the Diamondbacks 11-6. LA's lead in the NL West is now at 5 games on San Diego and 6 games on Arizona. Brewers, top team in the NL Central, beat the Cardinals 9-3. Astros, AL West leaders, lose to the Reds 5-3.
Inside the locker room with former Crimson Tide basketball coach Wimp Sanderson and his son, former SEC and ACC assistant basketball coach Barry Sanderson. It's time to take you inside the locker room on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Welcome back to the second hour of Inside the Locker Room. Doug Bell joined us at 8:15. We'll look at Doug's picks and see how Doug did in his first weekend as well. I know he had 3 games that he picked, and I know how he did, but we'll wait to get Doug on and let you guys know how Doug did. And he'll give you 3 more games for this weekend. Games are hard to pick right now. Allstate Insurance agent Andrew Kniffer, he's my agent. Let him become yours. He's out at 4705 McFarland Boulevard, Suite 3 over in Northport. Don't just pay the bill. Know what you're paying. Look for home, life, auto, whatever you need. His staff will take absolutely great care of you. Give him a call today, 205-722-9201, Allstate Insurance with Andrew Kniffer. Now, I think we learned over the weekend, I think the first game, if I'm Florida, and my coach is in that situation, I'm not going to play Miami. I would have moved that game. I'd have done something. If I'm Clemson and people are kind of down on us, I'm probably not playing Georgia in that first game. I don't know that I'm going to play Pine Bluff. I don't know if that does anything for you, but I think Alabama playing Western Kentucky, who's been to bowl games. I think I saw 7 out of 10 years. I mean, they've been a pretty quality opponent. So, it is what it is. But I think you got to get off to a good start.
Well, I think it sounds to me like that you have now come back to my theory.
Yeah, I've always been.
I want you to admit that.
I've always been, like if I'm Georgia and I know I got a juggernaut, then it doesn't matter really who I play it. But if I'm those teams, especially if my coaches,
that's right,
kind of on the hot seat a little bit, my fan base is upset. Now, they're beside themselves. Even LSU, which I thought LSU played really pretty well, other than some mistakes there.
Oh, I get a call yesterday from a guy who says, "Coach, is it really true that Nick Saban's going to be the new coach at Florida State?"
Mike Griffith says Nick Saban's going.
Where?
He says if Ryan Day does not win the national championship, that Nick Saban's going to Ohio State. That they have had enough and they just want to win and they're willing to pay whatever it takes. And he says Nick Saban's, but I think Nick Saban's enjoying retirement.
Nick Saban's going to Florida and to Georgia and to the golf course.
Yeah, he's making a lot of money with these commercials, doing this game day, and he don't have to. I mean, he's busy, which I'm sure he likes, but he's in the limelight still. He's got people driving around, taking care of him in and out, but no pressure of.
Barry, if they're paying this goober that hugged him yesterday $9 million.
17.
Oh, 17 million.
Yeah, but he's making that off his podcast and
but
all
he
that.
ain't got his show anymore.
Yes, he does. Yes,
he does.
Yes, he does. It'll be on today at 11 o'clock.
Show's gone.
The show's not gone.
Show's gone.
The show's not gone.
Yes, it's gone. So anyway,
that's fake
news.
News.
If they're paying him, I don't care if they're paying him $9 million. You ain't no telling what they're paying Coach. He ain't going back no coaching.
I don't think he will either, but I think he's enjoying it. But I tell you what, he shows you, to me, I think coaches are the worst at picking games. And I'm talking about games that, he was adamant about Texas A&M. He says, man, I'm telling this crowd, it's hard your signals and trying to get plays off. Like he said, this place at night, he was adamant that A&M was going to beat Notre Dame, and then it just didn't happen. Like the crowd wasn't, I guess the crowd was good, but of course A&M's quarterback. But I think coaches have a heart because they look at little things like that maybe ended up not being a factor in the game, and so he missed on several.
I had no idea what he picked. That's who I picked, as you know, and I didn't know. I didn't pick it because of him. I didn't even know he picked it.
Well, no, he picked on Saturday, so yeah, it was when they go through, they give their picks. But, they always pick the one, some of the big games as well. And he was adamant about the crowd. He just thought the crowd was going to be the factor in that A&M game, and it turned out not to be.
Barry, I said the same thing, and I said mental to physical, 3-1, all those kinds of things. I think the crowd there, this is not going to sound quite right to you. I think it stays at the same pitch the whole time. I know that doesn't make any sense to you, but I don't think on big plays or something really happens, they go crazy. I think they're more, they kiss their girlfriends when they score a touchdown. They seem to stay at the same pitch all the time. I'm sure that doesn't make any sense to you.
Well, it does, but not when Alabama's in there. When Alabama's in there, it's a totally different crowd than when other people are in there. Otherwise, they're doing their yells and their chants and they're swaying, but it's not. But when Alabama's in there, the place is in a frenzy. So Nick Saban, the crowds that he sees on the road, other schools don't see that. I do think
when Beavs was there, when Beavs was there, they couldn't beat anybody. They opened on the road. You wasn't even thought of being born. They opened on the road every year against LSU. And you can look at his record, but I'll guarantee you over a 10, 11, or 12 point, whatever he was, the years he was there, I think Beavs beat him one time.
Yeah. So I looked at the game. Somebody said, who do you like? And I just looked at that Tennessee line at 38. And I said,
I was the one that picked that.
They're going to blow that team out. And
you said, when I said that to me, you said to me, I don't think so. I think the big blowout's going to be South Carolina. That's what you said.
Yeah, I did think South Carolina looked terrible. But Nico, now I know that Tennessee didn't play. He was throwing darts.
Well, Chattanooga couldn't beat him, and Tennessee wants you to understand how good they are. There are two teams that I've been trying to study for next year, for next week, and Tennessee's one of them. And I'm not through studying them yet, but and I know you kept saying to me, don't get somebody with a big number.
Well,
I kept thinking Tennessee was a big number, and Chattanooga's just not in their class anywhere close. And I think they wanted to show what they could do. And there's certainly somebody you need to look at. I'm looking at this time, and so everybody else could. And the other factor too that people need to understand about this blue plate. If you think I am wrong, then you need to go the other way.
But they're relying on you to be right. They can pick any other game.
If they think I'm wrong, if they say, oh, that's ridiculous, then they need to go the other way. It gives them an opportunity to go the other way because I'm so dumb.
Yeah, well, the line that doesn't – do you make a lot of improvement from week 1 to week 2, especially if you played poorly? They must think they are because South Carolina's only a 10-point underdog at Kentucky. That game in Kentucky and Southern Miss only lasted a little over 3 quarters, and they ended up calling and they won 31-0. But South Carolina looked pathetic to me. Now
I didn't get to watch that. I didn't get to see South Carolina. Nothing good at all about them.
No, but it ended up they had a weather delay, so they had to take them off the field. And from what I've seen, and Corey and those guys can tell you better, I thought Robbie Ashford was a better quarterback than that guy they started, but he just didn't. He didn't look very good. So they're going to Kentucky, 2:30 ABC. Let's look real quick at the lines for the weekend.
Yeah, I thought it was 9.
Well, it's 10 today. Maybe Texas goes to Michigan. That's the marquee game. It's going to be on Fox. Texas, 7-point favorite. Arkansas, Oklahoma State. The game's over in Stillwater. That line looks low to me. 7.5. Oklahoma State's favored. There no line on McNeese State, Texas A&M, Tennessee Tech. Why is Georgia playing Tennessee Tech? Forget that. Cal and Auburn. Auburn 13.5-point favorite. 2:30 game. Man, it'll be hot there for that game. We talked about South Carolina, Kentucky, Middle Tennessee, Ole Miss. That line looks low. 41. South Florida, which beat Bethune-Cookman over the weekend, 48-3. Is a 31-point underdog against Alabama. That game's at 6. Buffalo, Missouri 34-point favorite there. Sanford's going to Florida. Nichols, LSU, no line. Tennessee, NC State, that line's 7.5. That game is actually in Charlotte. Alcorn State and Vandy, so good for Vandy. They'll start out 2-0. So good for those guys. Houston, which is really down. They got murdered by UNLV over the weekend. They're going to Oklahoma, 29.5 there. And then the last game, 9:30. Nobody will be awake by the time this game's over. Mississippi State, Arizona State, and Arizona State is a 6.5-point favorite. Any games over the weekend that catch your eye in the SEC?
Tennessee was the game that caught my eye. I also thought the Arkansas thing was I felt like Oklahoma State was going to, but I wasn't sure about Oklahoma State. They're always so up and down. But Tennessee is the one I like. There's one other one that I'm not going to mention it right now, but there's one other one in the ACC. I believe the ACC school that I liked in that one. But I tell you something, son, they're hard to pick.
Yeah. All right. In the app message, Josh, who's a loyal listener over in Northport, like Josh, says, Barry, you're correct. No valleys on YouTube or YouTube TV. I don't know what that means. Drives my mother absolutely insane because she Also cannot get the Braves, which that's the bad thing. I like the Braves on the MLB app because they restrict and black them out. What if you can get the Bally Sports app and just pay for that? If you can do that, then I'm gone. DirecTV can kiss my grits. I'm out of here. All right, we'll take the break here. Tuscaloosa Toyota. Go to TuscaloosaToyota.com. You can look at all the new inventory, the used inventory. You can schedule a service. You can rent a Toyota right there on the website. Swing by Skyland Boulevard. Justin, David, DeSantis, and those guys do outstanding, the best car dealership by far in this area. So look for great Toyota. Swing by the truck. The Camrys are in. The 2025s are already in, and they will take absolutely great care of you. So get by there today and tell them that Wimp and Barry sent you. I'll get to Doug Bell next. You listen to Tide 100.9. It's the home of Alabama sports.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
Tuscaloosa traffic now from the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center. We might have a little something here in Northport. I am seeing very slow traffic on Rose Boulevard. Now, it's mainly in the eastbound direction, but you're slow in the westbound direction as well, hooking up to 43. That intersection is very heavy. 43 on the southbound lanes to Rose. That's
is a job well done, well under budget. Whatever you do it for less at Harbor Freight.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
The sky partially sunny today. The chance of a few scattered showers and thunderstorms this afternoon and tonight. The high today 89. Tonight's low 69. Tomorrow a mix of sun and clouds. The chance of a shower or storm in a few spots. The high 85. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9.
Mr. SEC Tournament Wimp Sanderson gives you his excellent analysis every weekday on Inside the Locker Room, right here on Tide 100.9.
Welcome back to Inside the Locker Room. We're right to the Yellowwood Hotline. He's with PGA Tour Radio, PGA Tour Live, CBS Sports headquarters. Joins us normally on Mondays, but we took Monday off, so we're making him work on Tuesday. Our main man, Doug Bell. Good morning, Doug. How are you?
Hey, Barry. Hey, Coach. Coming to you from New York City. I'm about to go to the U.S. Open tennis today.
I went there one time and took Dave Oldham and his wife, and I had some passes. We got to go into the dressing room where all the tennis players were.
We would watch you, Doug, but we have DirecTV and we can't get ESPN right now. So if you have to tell
I heard there's a little snafu there. Yeah,
you'll have to tell us about it.
Well, I don't know if Barry wants to go first with you or not. I certainly need to talk about what Scotty did, but
go ahead. Let's get the golf out of the way, and then we got to get we got to talk a little college football with Doug.
I think it's unusual for a guy to be that consistent. His second, he's most of the time in the fairway, but his second shots are some makeable and some at least two putts, and he's generally great shape for birdies on par fives. But to be that consistent over that long period of time, over all those wins, has got to be Tiger Woodish. So you tell our listeners about that.
Well, you go back to Tiger 2000, 24 years ago. He won 7 times, 3 major championships. So that might be the best year ever, even with due respect to Jack Nicklaus and some of the other guys. But what Scotty has accomplished here in 2024 is the greatest year we've had in 2.5 decades and in the modern era. I mean, think about it, guys. 7 wins. Won the Masters, won the Players. Nobody's ever defended the Players before this year. 4 signature events, which is only the best players who qualify, either the top 50 or top 70. Then wins the Tour Championship, the FedEx Cup, which he'd never done. And on top of that, something that Tiger never accomplished, Jack never accomplished, because, back then they didn't play in the Olympics, but he won a gold medal. And, oh, by the way, he was 6 shots down with 10 holes to play in the final round of the Olympics. So it was an all-time great year. And then on top of that, guys, and we've talked about it a lot on this show, when you add it all up, about $60 million in earnings just on the golf course, not to mention what he gets with bonuses and and some of the other things he has outside the course. I mean, it really was an incredible year. And then, Coach, as you mentioned, statistically, he led in more than 40 categories on the PGA Tour. Not to get too much into the weeds, but even though he wasn't in the weeds much, I mean, with a wedge from 100 to 125 yards, this is the one that, I mean, he was 7 feet closer on average than any other golfer on tour. And the other thing, just to mention one other stat, his scoring average for the year was 68.00. That's the lowest scoring average in the history of the PGA Tour for a year. So that in itself says to me, wow, what a year.
What impresses me about him is Xander talked about how, how good he was, even though he played with him, and Xander didn't have his best game, but he couldn't beat him. And but to say that, he is what everybody says he is, which I thought was a real compliment against somebody who's, he's got the shot to do what Scotty's doing and couldn't quite do it. Nobody could. And Colin was really terrific, but I thought Xander really made some nice comments.
Yeah, and a great year. I mean, 2 major championships. And it's funny, up until Scotty wins the FedEx Cup, there were guys like Justin Thomas and Victor Hovland and some of the other guys who said, listen, I think I'm going to vote for Xander as player of the year, and I think that'll change now. Two guys really had phenomenal years, 2024, Scotty and Xander. They were by far the 2 best. Big gap between them, number 3 and the rest. But there's a huge gap between 1 and 2.
Colin played well, though. He's a close third. He's a close second. he was good, boy.
Yeah, and he had 5 top 5 finishes this year, Colin Morikawa, which is great, right? But they interviewed him afterwards, and he's frustrated because he hasn't won now in 2 years.
Yeah,
really great player. But when you haven't won, like Justin Thomas hasn't won now in 2.5 years. These guys, they all want to win. Money's great. It really is. Let's don't dispel that. I mean, when you get $60 million or whatever he's going to wind up with, that's great. But these guys do want to win. And when you're Colin and JT and some of these guys who've got Patrick Cantlay, who are really good players, but they haven't won now in almost 2 years, that's frustrating for them, especially when a guy like Scotty's won it 7 times and the Olympics.
Yeah.
Is there any better way to do the last tournament? I know they have more events, but that's hard to watch when you give the guy 10-stroke lead. Well, not 10. He is 2-stroke, I guess, on one guy, but people are even. It's not very entertaining to me to watch that, Doug. Or maybe it is to you guys. Is there a better way to do that? To make it where people want to watch it, where there's more people in contention on Sunday?
I think they need to tweak it. I really do. And you're right. Sunday, other than on the 8th hole when he shanked it out of the bunker, Scotty and the lead dwindled to 2. It's like, okay, but again, it was only a 2-man race.
Yeah.
I do think they need to tweak it, even though what they're trying to do is a guy like Scotty, when you go into the playoffs as the number 1 guy, you should have some advantage heading into the final event. That's their feeling. So they have that crazy staggered start. But I really believe if you qualify for the final event, you're one of the final 30. I think even number 30 should have a legitimate chance of winning the $25 million. I just think that's the playoffs, right?
Yeah.
And I think it would be more exciting. Some people have proposed maybe the top 4 get buys and you have match play the first 2 days, and then ultimately the top 4 guys would then play match play, or would then have matches against the other guys. I think they need to tweak it, although the tour, Jay Monahan, the commissioner, in that press conference was asked that before the week began. He said, we have no plans to tweak it now in the foreseeable future. So I think that's what we're going to be stuck with. Somewhat anticlimactic to me, because it's been a great year. And then when you get down to the final 30, like Justin Thomas, he really had a good week, but he never factored into the final outcome at all.
Like if you're like in the top 4, just give them X number of dollars for getting in the top 4 and make the purse maybe a little bit smaller. Give them $10 million, the guy that's number 1, 2, on down to 4, and then just have a tournament. Let the 30 play, and that guy's already made a pretty big percentage of money there, and then have a real tournament where everybody starts at the same, but you guarantee them certain amount of money for finishing in first place. Can you do it that way, Doug?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I really do. I just, it's the playoffs, and in team sports, it's not always the best team who ultimately wins the championship. It's the team who gets hot at the end. It happened in baseball last year with the Rangers. In football, the Chiefs weren't the best team in the regular season. Then did they get lucky or whatever, but they won those 2 road games in the playoffs. So it's not always the best. It's the team that gets hot at the end. And I think that I have no problem with that. If they wound up, like you said, with the final 30 playing, and if the 30th guy, ends up winning, so be it. He got hot at the right time. I think that would be to me more exciting, and I think that's what golf needs, because it kind of got swallowed up by college football, et cetera, with that Sunday. I watched, but then it was kind of like, like I said, aside from the miss hit at 8. And then he came back with birdies at 9, 10, and 11, Scotty Scheffler. It really wasn't. It was anticlimactic, to say the least.
Yeah, never really had any pressure on him. All right. What goes on the rest of the year with the PGA Tour?
Well, we're off this week. And then next week, the fall season resumes, and they'll play in Napa, California. And then the week after that is the President's Cup up in Montreal. Where you have 12 guys on the U.S. team, 12 on the international team, and they'll play a 4-day competition. And then you resume back. There's 6 more events in the fall. They'll go over to Asia. They'll go to Bermuda. They'll play over Sea Island. And really the big names don't need to play. Like Scotty Scheffler will not play at all this fall, other than the President's Cup. These will be guys who are trying to improve their position. If they finished outside the top 70, they're trying to improve their position for next year. You can move up the ladder, if you will, and that'll get you more starts with the new season in 2025. So the fall, I guess what I'm saying is the fall, there will be tournaments. I don't know if a guy like Nick Dunlap, who made the top 70, will play in any. He may, just to kind of stay sharp. But for the most part, it'll be young guys or players who've been around a long time who lost their card, lost their status. They'll try to regain it to get back in the top 125. So it'll get lost in the shuffle. I'll be out there, guys.
The President's Cup, because it's been so one-sided, only one time they lost. It just doesn't take on the same mixture as the Ryder Cup. I don't think you can comment on that.
No, it doesn't, Coach. The Ryder Cup, the players get excited. It has history. The international team, like you said, this will be the 18th time they've met every other year, and only one time have they won. One time there was a draw because Jack Nicklaus and Gary Player were the captains, and it was getting dark, and they decided just to call it a tie. So, and you have the 2 best players in the world, Scotty and Xander, anchoring the American team. And they're heavily favored again. So, it was 2 years ago in Charlotte, the crowds were enormous and the people went crazy over in Charlotte at Quail Hollow, even though the Americans won pretty easily. So we'll see. From what I'm told, the people in Canada up at Royal Montreal are really pumped up about it. But as I said, guys, at the end of September, for example, on that Saturday, when it's the third day of the President's Cup, that's also the day Georgia plays Alabama in Tuscaloosa, and there's some other big college football games, and the NFL will be on Sunday. So it's going to get swarmed.
What's the date of the Ryder
Cup? The President's Cup. It'll be September.
When is the Ryder Cup after that? Is that not this year?
Well, no, that'll be the following summer up at Bethpage Black in New York City.
Okay.
All right, Doug. Chase, get ready here. Doing your picks is a lot more fun when Dad hits his blue plate special because we feel like, we kind of can stick our chest out and brag. But one thing I like about you, Doug, is you always come back. Like you're excited. Yeah. Like Coach Norvell right now, he's in the gutter. He is in the absolute gutter. Like he's sick. So let's look at your picks from last week, see how you did. We'll go in order of how the games were played. Clemson, little old Clemson, was taking on Georgia. You said take Clemson plus the 13.5. That was a loss. So let's go ahead, Chase. Yeah, no. The other game right after that, which I like the way they space these games out. They do a much better job. Florida against Miami. Cam Ward. He's pretty good, Doug. He's a cool guy. I don't even think he sweated during the game. You said take Florida plus the 2.5 at home. You were high on the Gators. That was another loss. But then, but you pushed it all in. You said, all right, that's it. You believed in Kalen DeBoer and Jalen Milroe and crew. And you said take Alabama minus the 31. That wasn't even a game. 63-0. So chalk him up a W there, Chase. There you go. So Chase, so we're off to a 1-2 start. Not bad. You got one pick there, right? 1-2 on the year. But where are we going this week, Doug? I know you're gonna come out swinging this week.
Absolutely. I mean, we're 3-0. I'm telling you right now, 3-0. Now listen, we're going to start off, guys. Jordan-Hare Stadium, Auburn, 2-touchdown favorite over Cal. If you remember a year ago, that late game Saturday night, Auburn won a stinker of a game. In fact, Cal outgained them, more first downs, better on third down, and actually had a chance to win in the end. And the kid, it's interesting, the kid who came in at quarterback, Sam Jackson, not the actor, by the way, he was the quarterback at Cal last year, and now he's a wide receiver at Auburn. I thought that was kind of an interesting wrinkle. But needless to say, Auburn, and last week's game, was strictly a practice game against Alabama A&M, and whatever that crazy score was, what was it, 73-3, whatever it was. Listen, Cal has never experienced what they're going to experience with Jordan-Hare, and the folks are pumped up. They're excited. Hugh Freeze got them going, and this is a better Auburn team. Offensive line is better, obviously better wide receivers. I think Auburn covers easily against Cal on Saturday, guys.
And that line, the line is, I'm actually going to help you here. 13.5. So we're going to give it to you. 13.5.
Well, you're looking good, Doug. You're looking good.
So,
thanks,
all right, Chase.
Wow,
so take Auburn minus the 13.5 against Cal. I'm going to say this, Doug. I hate this. I like the pick.
There we go.
I do too. I like that pick. That's a good pick.
Now I'm worried now. You guys both like to. I'm worried.
All right, where are you going on your second game, Doug?
All right, Maryland at home against Michigan State. Big Ten game, obviously. Maryland, listen, they're excited about their football at Maryland. Mike Loxley's done a nice job. Remember, they blew out Auburn last year in that Music City Bowl. A lot of those kids come back. And then, again, like everybody, Maryland had the easy opener last week. Their quarterback, by the way, who's pretty good, played against Auburn. He threw for 311 yards last week. And so, Billy Edwards, so I kind of like him. And they're giving 9 to Michigan State.
The line's actually, it's 8 right now, Doug.
8? Oh, even better.
Yeah.
Michigan State struggled against FAU. So, and listen, Michigan State is on a downturn right now. I mean, they went through some controversy last year with the coach, et cetera. Went through a miserable year. Yeah, I mean, they're struggling. I think Maryland's just on an uptick. They won 8 games last year, and I think Mike's done a nice job as head coach. He did a nice job when he was with Coach Saban. He's got some good players in, some good transfer kids. I like this, guys. I like the Auburn game, and I like this game even better. Wow. Maryland at home.
I think you're going to be 2-0 there.
Maryland minus 8, Chase. The game's in College Park, Maryland. Doug? It's on the Big Ten Network. I don't know if that's owned by ESPN. We may not get to watch it.
You may have to watch that on your phone. Yeah.
Yeah. I couldn't even get my phone to work. All right. So take Maryland. I'm even going to give you the line. You wanted 9. It's 8. We're going to give him minus 8. Doug, I like that pick. I like it.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys have never been so positive, so I'm very worried, to say the least. All right. Lastly, this completes the 3-0 week, guys. And listen, I was kind of jostling around with Nebraska, Colorado, Alabama, South Florida, but here's the one I really like. South Carolina struggled mightily in that opening win against Old Dominion, and Shane Beamer afterwards was frustrated in this press conference, et cetera. They go to Kentucky. They're getting 10. And Kentucky was Kentucky in the opener. I mean, they're usual. They shut out Southern Miss, but
in 3 quarters. They didn't even play a full game, and they smashed.
Don't egg him on, Barry. Go ahead.
Gamecocks and the 10 on the road.
No, I don't like that one.
I knew he did it, Barry.
But you may be right. I'm going to tell you may be right, because South Carolina looks so bad. Don't ever play a quarterback that wears goggles, Doug. That's my rule.
South Carolina 10, is that correct?
He's taking South Carolina minus the 10. No,
plus 10.
Yeah, plus 10. Yeah, he's getting South Carolina plus 10. That's right. So,
that'll be my 3-0 week.
I don't like that one.
4-2 after 2 weeks, guys. That's pretty good.
You crap. Mess kid on that one.
Yeah, I'm not loving that one. I'm not saying it's not right. That would not been one I would have touched. But sometimes when you play poorly the first week, like Florida State did, they play poorly.
He's being phony against you. He doesn't believe it. He's being phony.
South Carolina looked bad.
They did. And that's why I kind of like them to bounce back. And plus, South Carolina, Kentucky, usually, if you look at what they've done the last few years, they've always been close games. For whatever reason, that's just kind of one of those.
You get the touchdown, the field goal. You're in great shape.
Yeah. In Lexington.
Yeah.
On the road. I'm not worried about that.
2:30, so you're going to have 2 games going on at once. Since it's Cal and Auburn are also at 2:30. Doug, what cable do you have? Where do you watch your games at home?
I watch mine on Hulu. So I get all the games, guys. I mean, you name it, I get them.
Can you get the Braves on Hulu?
Yes, you can. And plus, if you have the MLB network, I have the MLB app, as they said. So yeah, no, I got it all, guys. I'm kind of like Sports Center at home, which really is popular in my household.
So Hulu, so you get the local news and all that on Hulu?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you get all the local channels, and then they have a sports category. And you go to that, and every hour, whatever sports, I have every ESPN3 game, every PGA Tour.
Really? I need to. I was thinking about going to. What was I going to, Barry?
YouTube TV.
Which one's the best, Doug?
I think they're both good.
Now you gotta you gotta have smart TVs in order to get these, right, Doug?
You do, but all the TVs now are smart TVs, right?
Yeah, most of them.
Yeah,
I got one in my bedroom's not, but I don't know. DirecTV. I'm paying a fortune too for DirecTV. I like to watch the Braves, and they get it on Bally. You get them every night. You can't get them on YouTube. Maybe you can just buy the Bally app. I don't know, but anyway. All right, Doug. Who are you going to watch in tennis today?
Well, we're going to go with the young lady who beat Coco Gauff. And she is playing in the quarterfinals. And then I'll have one of the young Americans against Zerov, the guy from Italy. Anyway, 2 quarterfinal matches. It should be fun. And the good news is, guys, my seats are kind of high up, but the fact the favorites have all pretty much gotten beat, I'm going to slide down and get a little closer. That's the action.
There you go.
I got the cheap seats, but I'm sliding down. So
you don't ever watch wrestling, do you?
Wrestling?
Yeah, wrestling?
I thought maybe that he make him practice a little bit or learn how to wrestle. I didn't know.
No. I don't know, Barry. Coach sometime.
Doug, are you staying in one of those hotels that are on strike?
No. My hotel is fine. Yeah, no. My hotel's not on strike. We're good.
All right.
So we're right after we get off with you guys, we're hopping on the subway, and it'll take us 45 minutes to get out there.
All right. I think you're going to go 2-1 this week, Doug.
Don't watch any wrestling.
All right, Doug.
Coach.
Yeah, just ignore him. Thank you, Doug.
All right, boys. Talk to you next week.
See you.
Bye-bye.
All right, then let's tell them about Bryant Bank before we get to break.
Well, happy to tell them about Bryant Bank because it's absolutely the very best bank in the land. 4 locations in Tuscaloosa and several locations in Birmingham, Columbiana, and throughout the state of Alabama. And It'll be your bank. They'll know you by your first name after you've been there one time. They do everything they possibly can to be sure that the people are surrounding them in the schools and so forth are helped as much as they possibly can. The fraud attempts that come about upon people's bank accounts throughout this country, and brother, there's a bunch of them. They are darn sure that they're on top of that, take care of it. Your money is there, won't be there to stay. And you're going to go into a nice bank and meet a nice banker, and you're going to find that Bryant Bank is absolutely what I say it is. So I hope you'll go by Bryant Bank and visit with them and tell them you heard on Inside the Locker Room and be a patron of theirs and work for them and help them, and I think they'll help you a great deal. So Bryant Bank, absolute best. Tell them you heard on Inside the Locker Room.
You listen to Tide 100.9. It's the home of Alabama sports.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
Tuscaloosa traffic now from the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center. We've got the normal rush to work flow on your Tuesday morning in several spots. Of course, you know, Lurleen Wallace and McFarland. That intersection is always going to be pretty crowded. Also, 2059 westbound between McFarland and Joe Malisham. You got bridge work, so that also tightens things up from time to time.
Visit us at 3537 Skyland Boulevard East or check us out online, BMWofTuscaloosa.com. BMW of Tuscaloosa. Take your dreams for a drive.
From the University of Alabama, this is Crimson Tide Today. It's a daily update on Bama sports, and it's brought to you by Everwood, the official treated lumber of Alabama athletics. Everwood, wood treated right. Hello again, everybody. I'm Roger Hoover. On Tuesday's edition of Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR, we'll be joined by Crimson Tide football radio voice Chris Stewart.
They were impressive offensively doing it. I think that is something that Tide fans were excited to see once again, is the explosiveness that we saw many times over the last decade, especially for Alabama offense. You know, the teams had big play capability in Coach Saban's first half of his tenure, but it was more of just wearing you out. And we always talk about imposing their will. Normally you think of that on the defensive side, but Bama's offense did that for much of his tenure. The last few years, it didn't quite look the same. You had the explosiveness, which was great, but you didn't have as much consistency the last 2 to 3 years.
I'll have more in a moment.
Producing championship quality lumber is not an easy process, but at Everwood Preserving, it's our only process. Wood treated right. Everwood offers top-notch pressure-treated wood for decks, outdoor structures, commercial jobs, and more that you can build your reputation on. When it comes to quality, we're on the winning team. Visit your local Everwood dealer today and discover the difference for yourself. Everwood Preserving Incorporated, the official lumber of the Alabama Crimson Tide.
If you missed last night's edition of Crimson Tide Rewind, presented by the Alabama Department of Public Health, catch it on demand on the Alabama Insider Podcast, as well as a video replay on the CTSN YouTube page. Crimson Tide Today is brought to you by Everwood. Crimson Tide Today is a production of the Crimson Tide Sports Network from Learfield.
Alabama fans are all over the world, and we are too. Download the Tide 100.9 app right now in the App Store and Google Play, and take the Crimson Tide everywhere you go.
Welcome back to Inside the Locker Room. We'll get right up here to the Yellowwood Hotline. We'll bring Tom into the show. Good morning, Tom.
Hey, Barry. Good morning, Coach. How are y'all?
We're good. How are you?
Okay, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you for asking. You know, it was interesting to me. I wanted to ask y'all this. When I was going through the final results of the Tour Championship at East Lake, and JT, I think ended up around 14 to 15. $905,000.
Yeah.
And, but you know, Coach, to me, and I think all of us would agree, this was kind of a struggle for JT this year.
Yeah, I think probably it was a little bit. I would say, his putt. He just didn't putt it real well. He changed teachers, and his putting was just from the 10-foot area on in. He didn't make any putts, and I think that was very, very costly to him. I thought he knocked it pretty close with his second shot, but better so than ever. I just think his putter went south on him a little bit.
That's exactly right, and I was thinking when I was going through there, I was kind of reviewing in my mind his season and how he finished and all like that, and JT, a few putts here or there, and JT's in the winner's circle, and especially he's made the cut in the majors, and that's always good. But still, I want your opinion on this. I think that he can say, this was a year that I really tested my patience, my mettle, but I still ended up 14th in the world.
Well, I think so. I think he's kind of gone about that way. I don't know how much he's going back to his dad for his putting lessons. Probably to somebody else. Probably to one of those teachers.
I hope.
So there's the guy that's doing the play-by-play, not play-by-play, but on the golf channel is a very good teacher. So he couldn't make it on the pro tour very well, but he's a smart guy. And I think he's got his head on his shoulders. He's got baby coming or something, and I think he's on the right track to, if he gets his putter straightened out and continues to play the way he is with his second shots, that he's going to be in contention for a long time. The biggest problem with these guys is that money doesn't become a factor with them sometimes. All they think about is winning. And it's not, and you can't, and it's hard to win when you're playing against people. I mean, you can go, some of these guys have gone 10, 12 years without winning. It's just hard to win. And and it's hard. It's hard to say, well, I lost, but I pocketed $5 million. Yeah, sure it is.
Yeah. And he,
you know what I mean?
He ended up shooting 65 on Sunday, but there probably wasn't a lot of pressure on him. He kind of backed into the top 30 to get in this thing, and then he ended up playing well there and moved up from 30 to 14. I'm looking at, he made $4,475,000 this year, so he's 32nd on the money list.
Yeah, and I just think though, even though he struggled, there's some positives that he can take and work on and move forward with and feel good about. 14th in the world in golf is not bad, and
no, it isn't.
And I think it's something he can build on and be proud of. Really, on a year that he didn't have. Let's just say it this way: he didn't have his A game.
Yeah.
No, he just did not. He just didn't make the putts that need to be made to push him over the top. And that.
Did you see?
Go ahead.
Did you see who ended up 20th on the PGA money list?
Who was?
I didn't look that far down. No.
Scotty Scheffler's caddy.
Yeah. He had a good year, no doubt.
$5.5 million.
There you go. Thank you, Tom. We got to get to this last break. We'll talk to you. Have a great day, my man.
Thank you.
All right, see you.
All right, we'll take this last break and wrap up the show. You listen to Tide 100.9 1230 AM WTBC. It's the home of Alabama sports.
Coming up on The Game with Ryan Fowler.
Hey, Roll Tide, this is Ryan Fowler from The Game. We'll be back on Tuesday. We're not going to be laboring on Labor Day. We're going to recap Alabama and Western Kentucky. We'll take your reaction with a great guest lineup, all starting at 2 p.m. Tuesday afternoon, right here on The Game on Tide 100.9 1230 WTBC, your home of Alabama Crimson Tide Sports.
The longest running sports program in Tuscaloosa. The Game with Ryan Fowler. Weekdays from 2 to 6 p.m. on Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
Tuscaloosa traffic now from the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center. We've got the normal rush to work flow on your Tuesday morning in several spots. Of course, you know, Lurleen Wallace and McFarland. That intersection is always going to be pretty crowded. Also, 2059 westbound between McFarland and Joe Malisham. You got bridge work, so that also tightens things up from time to time.
280 in Birmingham. Plus, don't miss our grand opening celebration Friday, October the 11th through Sunday, October 13th. And check us out at academy.com with free shipping on purchases over $25.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
The sky partially sunny today. The chance of a few scattered showers and thunderstorms this afternoon and tonight. The high today 89. Tonight's low 69. Tomorrow a mix of sun and clouds. The chance of a shower or storm in a few spots. The high 85. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9.
Inside the Locker Room with Wimp and Barry on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Welcome back to Inside the Locker Room. I'll do it for today. So, Dave, if you paid a bunch of money to handpick a guy, a quarterback, he spent a bunch of NIL money and he's struggling, what do? Do you replace the guy? Now the guys that gave you all the NIL money? Gary, chill.
I don't know. The one that bought the best one was Miami.
Yeah, well, money well spent. But I don't know that Florida State made a very good purchase there with that purchase.
Well,
anyway,
they made a purchase of a guy who was mediocre as he could be.
Yeah, he was mediocre at Clemson, so I don't know why they saw him firsthand. Why they would have thought he would have been the answer. Anyway, that is, you got to develop what you got. If Alabama's backup quarterback could get in the free agent market right now, he'd be worth a ton. Fortune. All right, that's it. Well, the guru, Gary's in. Gary had great picks this week, so he was 8-1. So maybe you'll when are you gonna make these picks, Gary? Friday. So tune in Friday. All right, that's it for today's show. Appreciate you, Chase. Listen to Tide 100.9 1230 at WTBC. It's the home of Alabama sports.